Let's talk about Will Fuller, who's now been suspended for 6 games with the PED violation. It's an unfortunate part of sports. And really, it's like, I don't think it was steroids. You can tell me if I'm wrong here. He just took medication that he thought was allowed, and it wasn't. And that's something that, this is not comparable really at all. But, I was an NCAA athlete. There was a lot of situations. I was a swimmer. People would be given medication for like respiratory issues or blood pressure issues, things like that. And we come to find out, they'll change the rule even a month later. You've been taking this medication that you've been prescribed, your trainers have given you, and then the next day it's like, oh, you're not allowed to take this. Well, that drug is still in your system. You're going to test positive. I don't think this is anything to say against Will Fuller. I've seen a lot of hate thrown his way saying, oh, of course, this is the 1 year that he could stay healthy. It was like, no, like, get all that out of here.
I believe it was an innocent mistake. I mean, for crying out loud, when I was playing football at Louisville, they didn't let me take certain pre-workouts because they thought it could trigger, the drug test. So I don't know what they were putting in those pre-workouts. I don't know, if they would have made me literally run through a brick wall. But I believe the genuine belief that Will Fuller took something. I don't think he was like juicing up trying to get bigger, faster, stronger. But Stef, not a big conspiracy guy, whether it was an innocent mistake or, malicious, I don't think it was. But could this have contributed to the fact that Will Fuller has stayed, for the most part, healthy through 12 weeks of the season? I think that's probably the question in the back of people's minds that they don't want to bring to the surface because they're like, well,
I don't know.
I don't want to throw him under the bus here, but it's a bit of a coincidence. I don't know.
I think we need to know what the medication is before we can really come up with a take on that.
No scientists here on Double Move Sports. No scientists.
What medication can make like your hamstring and your ACL stronger? Like steroids. That has to be what it is. And I don't think that's what he was taking. I could be wrong on that. Again, he came out on Instagram, said it was medication. But again, they ruled it as a performance-enhancing drug. We really don't know. But the interesting part with Will Fuller is that he's in a contract year, so he may not be on the Texans next season. I think the suspension is only going to hurt when he goes to the signing table with the Texans over the offseason. Right now, he's the PPR wide receiver 8, was averaging 7 targets a game, a 21% target share, 17% target share in the red zone, and a 34% air yard share on this Houston Texans team. So what are the implications here for the Texans pass catchers? Do all of them get a bump? I'm pretty locked in on Brandon Cooks.
It's disappointing. We've always said if Will Fuller could stay healthy, what would he be? And here we are. And it's the year where DeAndre Hopkins is gone. He has all this opportunity. He stays healthy. Wide receiver 8 in PPR. And just so unfortunate. And it sucks for Will Fuller, too, because he's probably going to lose a pretty fat contract because of this suspension. I see him getting like a 1-year deal, whether it's Houston or somewhere else, kind of a prove it deal, prove you can stay healthy, prove you've got it. But I'm not necessarily locked in on everyone getting a bump. I think Brandon Cooks was really thriving in that number 2 role. Will Fuller's taking a lot of attention on the other side of the ball. I don't know that Brandon Cooks is one of those guys that can just thrive with all the attention. Like, who else is going to draw these corners? Who else is going to draw safety help and double teams and things like that? It's not Kiki Kuti. It's not Jordan Akins. It's not any of the running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. So I think Brandon Cooks might see a slight bump in volume, which is obviously good. I don't know how efficient he's going to be with that extra volume. So maybe I bump Brandon Cooks up from a, low-end wide receiver 2 to more of a mid-tier wide receiver 2, but it's nothing drastic. I don't think that volume just shifts over to Brandon Cooks. Randall Cobb still injured. Kenny Stills is off the team. I'm not too interested in Kiki Kuti. Let's wait and see if he has a couple good games here. Maybe pick him up. Jordan Akins becomes a little bit more interesting as a streaming tight end. Deshaun Watson is still a start every week guy, even though I think it does hurt his upside. And then the running backs. Maybe we see some more volume go to the running backs. Maybe Duke Johnson gets more involved, lines up in the slot, starts lining up as a wide receiver when David Johnson comes back. But for me, it's hard to see a lot of positives here for the Texans. I think as a whole, it just hurts their offense.
Yeah, definitely a downgrade for Deshaun Watson as well. I think Randall Cobb, if this had happened earlier in the season, I think he becomes an interesting waiver name. But we're this far in. You're either in the fantasy playoffs or you're not. Maybe there's some value for him with Cooks taking over the 1 role. Cobb can step into the B slot role where he's had his moments. But yeah, I'm with you. This hurts a lot of them, and I'm sure the tight ends will see a bump. I'm sure Kiki QT will see a bump, but those are just not fantasy reliable assets that you want to plug into your lineup every week. I did see that David Johnson, they announced it probably 30 minutes before we hit record here, that he is expected to be back, potentially could play this week. That you know how big of a deal that is for my roster, Alex. So
I need you to win in our league of record this week because I need you to kick that team out of the playoffs for me. So please, David Johnson, give Stef 35 points this week. That would be great.
Well, I mean, I think him and Duke could actually see a bump in their passing and usage with just that many targets now available. 21% of targets are now just vacant on this team. That has to go to somebody. I think Duke Johnson and David Johnson could see bumps from that, but I don't know how much, is that going to go to both of them equally? Probably not. Is it going to be something that changes every single week? Probably. So not something that we can put a firm, start this guy, sit this guy type of thing. We just have to see next week how things play out. And the matchups don't really get me excited. Indianapolis, Chicago, Indianapolis again before Cincinnati in week 16. I'm sure everybody's going to have their games at different moments. I'm sure Cooks could have a good game in there. I'm sure David Johnson's going to have good games in there. Deshaun Watson's going to have good games in there, but just none of them are that reliable. None of those get you really excited to start them. So I'm trying to avoid the Texans as much as I can.